Well, it has been nearly 15 years since Jennifer Kesse was last seen. The 24-year-old vanished from her Orlando condominium in 2006. Now, 48 Hours is investigating her disappearance, raising new theories, and going inside her parents' search for answers. 48 Hours correspondent Peter Van Sant joins me now to talk about this case that we've been following so closely here in Central Florida. Peter, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. And by the way, we couldn't do this hour without the great work of your reporters. Louis Bolden is prominently featured in the course of this hour. So the professionalism and the great journalism that was done back then is highly appreciated by 48 Hours today.
Yeah, it is incredible reporting. And, you know, one of the things we've seen is security footage of this so-called phantom figure. But again, this was nearly 15 years ago, Peter. What's the issue with this footage, and why haven't investigators been able to find this person?
This is so frustrating. The person, the ghostly figure that you see, his face is obscured because back then the security camera only took a picture every 3 seconds. And he was so lucky because as he's walking by, that fence post in the first photograph hides his face. 3 seconds later, the next fence post hides his face. That person we know was the one who drove Jennifer Kesse's car and parked it. It was discovered 2 days after she disappeared. He sits in the car for about 32 seconds. The belief is he was wiping it down. He gets up and walks back toward the condo complex where Jennifer lived. And what we're hoping for today is that someone in the Orlando area, once they see this show, are going to go, hey, I think I know who that guy is. Look, there's a former employee at the condo complex. She takes a look at that image and she goes, hey, I think I know who this guy is. And so we actually end up approaching that individual during the course of our investigation. You will see on the show. But it's crucial because that person either committed the crime or knows who did.
Yeah, and I find it interesting that you are saying he this and he that, when investigators haven't really officially identified any suspect as a male or female.
I know it's all personal preference as you look at this photograph. I see a man in that picture, and I have never had anyone tell me that it is not a man. The family believes that it's a man. He has kind of a mullet haircut on the back, tall, thin. The shoes are very large. They're man shoes, and I always refer to this person as him because to me the gait, the physical stature, the haircut, the feet tell me it's a man. Somewhere between 5'6" and 5'7". Can't tell the age, but there was someone at the complex who used to work there that when she sees that, she believes it may be this one man that we end up approaching during the course of our reporting.
Yeah, and something else that's really interesting that may have recently come to light is that Jennifer Kesse's apartment was across from a place that was being constructed at the time, and construction workers lived in that complex. Can you talk a little bit about how that is shedding new light on possible suspects there? Was it a construction worker? Was it someone that may have been in for a day job and we have no idea where that person is right now?
Yeah, the leading theory by the private investigator that the Kesses have brought onto this case, he believes that a group of workers across from Jennifer Kesse's condo who were working to convert this building. At the time, it was an apartment complex being converted into condos, and Jennifer Kesse was one of those who moved into the finished units, but there was a lot more work going on. She had complained to her parents of leering looks and catcalls and whistling, made her feel very uncomfortable, and her greatest fear in life was to be abducted. So she used to get on her cell phone when she'd go from her car to her condo or from her condo to her car. But that January morning back in 2006, January 24th, she didn't do that. And the private investigator believes she had left her condo, was locking the door, was grabbed by these workers who were across the way. Now here's the problem with all of that, is that these were day workers, and some of them were undocumented workers, and they disappeared after Jennifer disappeared, and the complex did not have a list of the workers who were at the complex, and the contractor did not have a list of names. So that's why they're hoping that someone who perhaps still lives in the Orlando area will step forward, do the right thing. It's going to take some courage to say, look, I know who did this, and that's what our hope is as we air this show on Saturday night.
Yeah, and you just want to get the family some closure, some answers. And you know, it's so interesting because you mentioned it. The Kesses, their family, her mom and dad, they've hired their own private investigator, and they have the case file on their daughter. Why was this so important for them to get? Because they got it a few years back.
Well, they were very frustrated at what they perceived to be the slow pace of the investigation, and they thought that the Orlando Police Department had lost interest in the case. They made a request that the case be given to the cold case unit, a different group of investigators with their own budget. They'd have some money to take a second look, but the police department at the time declined that request. So they sued the Orlando PD, took some time, but then eventually got these case files. But in exchange for that, the Orlando PD at the time said, well, this is your case now. If you have the files, this is your case. We are no longer responsible. You are responsible. In the course of this story, by the way, you'll see that the current police chief of the Orlando PD, he actually has a real interest in this case, and he's saying that the family has not been abandoned, and they will pursue any new leads that come out of this. But for the family to comb through all of this, to come up with their own persons that they would like to question, try to get more information on, is something they'd hoped for a long time, and they're actively pursuing that. In fact, the person that I approached, talked to him at his home, and he agreed to answer a few questions, has already spoken with the Kesse's private investigator, and there's plans for another face-to-face meeting.
Boy, I talk about being deeply personal. I can't even imagine being a parent and trying to figure out what happened to your 24-year-old daughter. We talked about some theories, Peter, already about what may have happened to her with the construction workers. There's also someone may have seen someone throw a rolled up rug into a retention pond. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, there's a pond not far from it's been described to us as a small lake, in which about a month after she disappeared, someone saw a person put a rolled up rug into the water, and that they sank it. Now, that's important because all of the remodeling that was going on at that complex, they were putting down carpet. And so it made people think, well, maybe Jennifer was wrapped up in that carpet and that her body was sunk. And as your viewers know, there was some searching that was done out at that lake, and they did not find a body, but they were limited in the amount of money that the Kesses had to finance this search. There's still a portion of that lake that has not been searched that they hope to have that accomplished sometime in the months ahead, but they did not find the carpet.
Yeah, so much reporting has been done on this over the past decade and a half now, Peter. What do you think it's going to take for someone to get the courage to come forward? Because, you know, your memory is a little fuzzy after 15 years, but someone must know something.
Absolutely, someone knows something, and we're hoping that that person is still in the Orlando area or some other part of the country that will perhaps see this broadcast and be moved to do the right thing. That's what the family says. Please do the right thing. Ease our pain. Come forward. We'll protect your identity. Authorities desperately want to help solve this case, and we all do. You know, in my office in New York, I still have this little business card that they handed out at the time that said missing, and it has Jennifer Kesse's picture on it. I have two daughters of my own, and this case has stuck with me all of these years. And to get reunited with the Kesse family in the last few months as we worked on this was really gratifying. These are decent, wonderful people whose lives were turned upside down, yet they continue to fight. They've put everything, all of their finances into this. They just don't have much left at all except hope, and I hope someone out there can help come forward and ease that pain.
Yeah, well, we think that your it's 48 hours story will definitely give them some hope, and hopefully someone will get the courage and come forward and give this family some closure and just some peace of mind after all these years. Peter Van Sant, thank you for your excellent reporting as always.
Thank you.